let's imagine that I'm starting to work on a new project, and so I want to start something brand new. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to create a new directory for this thing, right? So I'm going to create, let's call it new solution is going to be where I'm going to put my code here. And I'm going to need to go into that new directory and start to do some stuff. What I want to do now is to say, hey, I want to use source control on this thing since I'm doing some serious project. And now that I've got a source control repository, well, I need to use an ignore file so that I don't start putting in a bunch of stuff into my source repository that doesn't belong there. So I'm going to create a file called .gitignore. And in that file, I've got some, on my clipboard, I've got some things that I use as kind of my standard opening for some things that I'm going to use in any project for my gitignore. So I'm going to go ahead and pump that thing in there. Now I've got some stuff, some dirty stuff in my repository. I'm going to go ahead and add that, and I'm going to commit that to my repository. And this is pretty straightforward. I've just added an ignore file, right? Okay, so now I've got a repository. I forgot my dash M. Okay, so I'm adding an ignore file. And now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fire up Visual Studio and start to create my solution that I'm using this thing, assuming that I'm actually creating a C# project and I want to use Visual Studio with it. So now I've got a source control repository. I'm going to start with creating myself a solution. So the first thing I'm going to do is say, hey, let's create a new project here. And Visual Studio has this kind of, I'd say, a little bit overly complex dialog for creating a new project. Now, I might want to just create a solution that I can start adding projects to, and I could go and do that with a Visual Studio solution here. If I know what I'm doing, and I know that I want to create, let's say, an ASP.NET web application here, I can just go ahead and do that, or I could just be here at the Visual C# level and say, okay, this is what I would probably typically do, and I can go and find that, hey, my first application, my first assembly that I want to put into this project is going to be an ASP.NET application. I might call this new web that's working in my new solution, and here's my existing path that I've created for my repository, so that's there. And I'm also going to say, okay, I don't want to create a directory because I've already done that with my source control, so I'm going to go ahead and deselect that. So now I can tell Visual Studio, hey, create this solution for me. So I'm going to go ahead and let it do that, and I might have been a little more careful about configuring my web application if I was actually going to write code with this, but for demonstration purposes I just took the default. So now Visual Studio is hard at work and putting some stuff into my previously empty directory, and so now I've got some stuff here, and it's still going on creating my solution. So now we should see that I've actually got a solution in addition to having my my web project, right? So inside of this new web, that's where I have all of my ASP.NET files and all of that stuff. So now, Git will tell me that I've got some new stuff in my repository, a new file and a new directory. And if I just say, hey, I want to go ahead and add everything, then then Git will tell me, hey, here's all the directories you've added, and this looks like what I expect. I've got my my MVC stuff, my models, views, controllers. I've got all of my content, the scripts, the jQuery stuff that's coming with the template, the base template for an ASP.NET application. So I'm going to say, okay, that looks good to me. I'm going to commit this thing and say that, hey, I created a new solution and with a web project to start doing my dirty deeds, right? And so I'm going to create all that stuff there, and now I have my Visual Studio solution, and I can start to work with this stuff, and I can start adding files and doing things. One of the first things I'm probably going to want to do is I'm going to want to add a test project to this thing. I could have told the dialog to do that, but really at this point now I'm dealing in an established solution, and I can start to do stuff, and I can see that I've got under source control the steps that I've taken so far. So that's a start of actually creating a solution, just using Visual Studio, using PowerShell, and just going forward and doing things as you would expect to do them.